Welcome back to Here's What You Missed. My name is Nick Powers, and I'm here with State Auditor of Minnesota, Julie Blaha. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you. And so most of our listeners, there's no shame in this, but most people in America don't necessarily know what state auditors do, and they're all different. Pretty much every state treats state auditors differently. So can you tell me a little bit about what your role is as a state auditor?
Sure. In Minnesota, the state auditor primarily works with local government. So cities, counties, townships, school districts, port authorities. If you're local, I'm connected to you. And we oversee about $60 billion in local government activity. We do it in three main ways. We do examinations like audits, investigations, legal compliance checks, those kind of things. We also, to help make those go well, we provide some direct support to help local governments do their money right. And then finally, we collect a lot of data in that process. So we take that, put that together with some context and give it back to people in reports so they can make decisions based on facts. So ultimately, the whole point of it is to make sure that we can protect your freedom to make a decision in your own community. This local government level is so important. You know, if DC gets all weird, if your state government gets paralyzed, your local government is that last line that doesn't have the luxury of an endless fight. You know, in Minnesota, if local government doesn't work, we don't get out of our driveway all winter.
That makes
and
sense.
kids don't get to
Yes.
school and the water doesn't turn on and the ambulance doesn't come. So it's a place where things have to get done. And so I'm just so excited I get to work at the best level of government. And if that level works, that's where people get to really work together and make decisions close to home.
That sounds like, okay, so I'm sorry. I always tell people that local elections are the ones that matter the most.
Oh,
They're the ones that
absolutely.
get the least press, but they're the ones that matter the most and most impact you as a voter, as somebody who lives in your city. How have you seen your role change over the last few months? You're in Minnesota. You're
Oh,
seeing
yeah.
this all in real time. You're on the ground, so to speak. How
Oh,
has your role been changing?
it's well, and that's been the thing. It's like, where do we fit into this? Because one of the reasons that we have been able to weather this crisis is that everybody did their part. You know, whether you were, it could be you're the busybody in your neighborhood, know everything that's going on. You set up the signal group to get kids to school. You know, swim moms came together to make sure students could get in and out of the parking lot safely, and the curling club decided to go around and do observations. And so for us, what we were noticing is that ICE was very much impacting local government in that local government had to clean up their mess. And that mess is continuing to be quite expensive. You have the damage they're doing to our local tax base. You have the fact that they were literally wrecking things in the city, breaking windows, causing car accidents. They had to provide all this police overtime. And then, like I was saying at the beginning there, your tax base starts to erode because workers can't get to work and customers are afraid to leave their house and businesses don't know if they can stay open. And so the costs just start growing and growing. And then schools have kids who are not coming in, so they switch to online learning. But then now they may not get the same funding because those online learning numbers don't count the same. And so it's just rippling through our entire economy. And so our role right now has been to help track the damage ICE is causing locally so that we can look for restitution and we can make the case of why this should never happen again.
That it sounds like it's affecting pretty much every area
Oh my
then.
gosh.
Yeah.
It's amazing. You know, and I think we hear about it being a Minneapolis issue because that's really where it started, but it's also St. Paul. And frankly, it's also the suburbs. It's also urban areas outside of the Twin Cities. It's been rural areas. It is rippling through everywhere. I live in the exurbs. I'm just on the boundary of the suburbs and the rural area in central Minnesota.
Mhm.
And the best buffet in town, Hong Kong buffet in Elk River. Amazing buffet. We all go there after church on Christmas, everything. Everybody knows the family. We're all connected. They were shut down.
Oh my
They
God.
were raided. They had to shut down for over a week. Didn't get any real arrests out of it. None of us were safer, but it really did damage one of the things
Right,
that
because
brings
it's a
us
whole
together
week
as a
of profits
community.
that they don't have, and also yeah, exactly, the community, everybody
Well,
who
yeah, not
goes
just the
there.
numbers, but a place we all got together and saw each other. And so
Right.
we're going to see direct costs, but we're also going to see some indirect costs just from trauma and disunity and fear. So trying to quantify this has been a challenge. I don't think we'll be able to quantify all the damage. So we better quantify all the damage we can. And that's kind of
Right.
where my office is sitting right now.
I didn't even like, yeah, all the damage that's not just the direct cause. What areas have you seen that are the most vulnerable when it comes to the ripple
Mhm.
effects?
Well, I think, and where it all starts, right? The kind of the epicenter is our most vulnerable Minnesotans. We've got people who are already in low paying jobs, working 2 or 3 low paying jobs, trying, keeping their family
Right.
together, and what happened to them? They had stopped working, couldn't leave home. So our most vulnerable people were hit first. Well, that ripples out. Now you have the businesses they work for, they're also having to shut down. If you're a restaurant, a lot of the restaurants lock the front door and you have to come up to the door and they'd have to let you in. As you can
Wow.
imagine, a lot of people don't know they're open then, and the big loss of business they had there for that. So, and then it ripples out from there. And now, let's say you're in agriculture right now. In Minnesota, agriculture is a huge industry for us. They were already being hit by tariffs. Tariffs were already not only
Right.
hurting their customers, but it was also wrecking the entire supply chain. Where you got probably got your fertilizer from Canada. If you got potash, well, that was wrecking that. And if you're General Mills, you buy oats from Canada. You make Cheerios and sell them back to Canada. So you got to go across the border a couple of times. So tariffs were already wreaking havoc on at
Right.
the agricultural community. And then they decided, hey, we're not just going to attack that. We're also going to go after your workforce. So a lot of our workforce are immigrants in agriculture, or they're not. They're seasonal. So now you have people saying, "Do I choose to come to Minnesota this spring for planting, or come here in the fall for harvesting? Do I, even though I'm documented, even though my family's been here a couple generations, I'm brown. I don't know if it's safe for me to go to work. I can't get picked up." And then have my family alone, and our schools had to go online, so I got to be home with my kids. So it also disrupted their workforce. And then
Wow.
to add to that, that wasn't the end of it. You've got all these other secretaries deciding to appease Trump by attacking Minnesota any way they can. So they were holding up about $130 million, $129 million in SNAP benefits. They held up. They held up $1 billion in Medicaid funding just to take another shot at us. And SNAP funding, that's
Wow.
food, and that is your
Hmm.
customer base and some direct programs that also you may be working with the federal government. So this was a triple whammy for agriculture. So this is, and there's just story after story after story. So it's rippling through our entire economy. This was not just an attack on Minneapolis. This is not just an attack on immigrants. This was an attack on our entire community. And
Right.
there's almost something good about that, though. The idea, I was a labor leader before this. And, we always say an injury to one is an injury to all. And we're definitely seeing this. By attacking immigrants, you attacked all of us, literally, when it comes to the economy. But I'm glad it's also that way because we are connected. You cannot just
Hmm.
take out one segment of the population. We're so deeply interconnected in our economies, in our relationships, and all the dependencies we have. I'm glad that you can't do that. You know what? If they attack somebody, we should all feel the hit.
That's right.
That's, I think, makes us a stronger society.
That's
So
what
we need to
community
be unified to
is.
respond to it because we're going to be unified in the impact.
And I can see that even from videos. I'm not in Minnesota, but
Hmm.
I think all of us online who are watching this happen, they can see how united Minnesota
Oh
is
yeah.
against ICE and against everything that's happening there. And it's while it's horrific to imagine everything that's happening, it does give us some hope that people are sticking together.
Well, and the whole world came to our aid. Think about, people are saying that where they learned about this, one, a lot of it on social media, because people shared
Right.
their videos, and then people shared them with their friends, and they kept sharing those videos and commenting on that and taking it seriously and amplifying these stories. That was huge.
Hmm.
Because it was, and if you shared anything, You shared any video from Minneapolis, you helped us. It's real. We felt that impact. It is one of the reasons that they are starting to draw down is because public opinion turned, and public opinion turned because people talked about it. They amplified it. They didn't let people forget about it. And it was a huge help to us. So I want to thank your show, everybody who shared that. You helped us. We felt it, and it is a reason that we're on the upswing now.
Well, thank you, honestly, for staying brave. Everybody in Minnesota, thank you for staying brave. I've seen the protests. I've seen people
Mhm.
going out and standing against all of this.
And we
Everybody
did it
that's,
in the coldest,
yeah, you
the
did.
coldest snaps of the year. I went out to that protest. If you've ever seen, it was kind of like, it was a lot of, camaraderie, but we actually couldn't recognize each other because all of us were all of the clothes we had. You could put your arms down, and there was something kind of wonderful in that it was that cold. It's like, do not, it's one thing to mess with Minnesota, but you're going to mess with us in the winter? Good
Mm-hmm.
luck.
Yeah.
This is a point of pride
And
now.
most of these ICE officers are not from Minnesota. They're not even from a place that's that cold. So they don't know how to deal with all of this.
Well, and they're not prepared. I mean, this is
Yeah.
something that's really frustrating me too. We talk about, one of the things they purported at one point was that they were here because they're going to prevent fraud. All
Right.
right. We know that wasn't true. They didn't send forensic accountants. No, they sent
Mm-hmm.
militarized forces. That's not how you're preventing fraud. But anyway, but even if you're looking at fraud, well, let's look at ICE, right? Their budget quadrupled last year. It went from $10 billion a year to $40 billion in 2025. And
Yep.
what did they get for that? Well, they cut their training back. They do less training of new recruits.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't buy cars. They were literally using rental cars.
Yep.
They don't have body cams. They don't have the kind of modern equipment. Shoot, they don't even have matching pants. I mean, they
No.
didn't have good enough shoes to walk on ice. And
Mm-hmm.
so what are they doing with their money? If anyone's worried about fraud, I think they should look at where this ice money is going. I do not understand how they could have that incredible increase in funding and have these results. It was low quality, low volume.
Mm-hmm.
It's costing us, that occupation costs $3 or $4 million a day for those 3,000 people. And they can't really show the numbers that show that they got the kind of results that they claimed that they were getting.
Right.
So, and then they avoid oversight. They won't share data. They won't let people investigate. I mean, if you're worried about fraud, don't send in ICE. Look at ICE itself.
That is a very good point. And right now, the only thing, to your point, the only thing that they're showing for all of the expenditure is more detention centers, because they are building more, they are buying more places for detention centers, but that doesn't account for the many billions of dollars that they're getting.
Well, and that's just it. One of the statistics, let me pull this up here so I can read it a little bit better, that we saw was that they have increased. And here's a time where, when you're talking, this is the only time I wish Trump would actually use percentages over 100, since he doesn't. I'm also a former middle school math teacher. How he does percentages just really makes me cringe.
Yep.
But we saw there was about a 2,450% increase in the number of arrests that were people that shouldn't have been arrested. Effectively a false arrest or an inappropriate arrest.
You
Is a
said
reduction
256%?
2,400. Let me just get this number
Oh,
up here.
wow. Okay.
It was just these giant increases in the number of people who were being arrested wrongly. And they'll say,
Right.
"Oh, they were just arrested for a couple, just arrested and let go." No, that's not what was happening. They were being brought into to facilities that were not designed to handle the volume or the type of arrests they were making. They weren't able to have access to, when you just look at the numbers of the cost of ICE in Minnesota, and this is something that we've all paid taxes on because this comes out of our federal tax money. The direct cost of deployment was about $200 million, $3 to $4 million a day. Now, you add in detention, court proceedings, medical care, deportation costs, food security, all of that. Total federal public spending, you could very reasonably say $230 million over 2 months. And this is at a time when they could maybe show a couple of hundred people that were arrested that had violent backgrounds. And those people, on average, were arrested right out of they'd already been in detention. They did not have to do a search. They just simply had to pick people up who were already in jail.
Oh, wow.
And so $3 to $4 million a day, Where did that money go? That money went to people driving around and harassing people. That went to
Hmm.
people picking people up, taking them to the Whipple building, taking their property, and then driving them out and dropping them off in the middle of nowhere. It is ridiculous. There is no way with that kind of money they couldn't have done this humanely. They couldn't have done it accurately. In fact, if they had, they probably would have seen they wouldn't have done it at all. They shouldn't have done it at all. I
Right.
mean, like right now, I'm not wearing my wedding ring. One woman who was picked up for observing ICE, just merely observing ICE. They took her into custody. They while she was in custody, they cut off her clothes. They cut off her wedding ring. They
Oh
didn't
my
just
God.
let her get out of the cuffs and just take her wedding ring off. So I'm not wearing my wedding ring until they're gone. I think it's just ridiculous the kind of ways their cruelty has seeped into our everyday life.
Wow. I don't even have words for that. I am so sorry. That's yeah.
And so it's tough now, so then when you want to go in and then start talking about the money, one of the hard parts is we do have to quantify this. We do have to talk about the money. I believe the federal government needs to pay to clean up the mess they made. I don't want to
Absolutely.
see money going to ICE until they come and they send a few $100 million to us to clean up here.
Hmm.
But the inhumanity of it is so overwhelming that it feels trite to talk about it. But here's the deal.
Right.
You know what? If they were humane, the dollars would follow, right? When you're inhumane, that's costly. I'm glad it is in a way, but chaos is costly. Inhumanity is costly. Cruelty is costly.
Mm.
And so the numbers are just kind of one attempt to quantify the cruelty. We can
Right.
never forget, Liam being in his little bunny hat being taken into detention in
Right.
Texas. We can't forget about the people who were murdered for simply trying to protect their neighbors. But we
Or
owe it
just
to them to
existing
quantify it in any
within
way
that
we can.
environment. Sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No, yeah, it's the idea of though it doesn't feel like it sometimes talking about the money doesn't feel like it meets the moment, but we all have to do what we can. And we need to keep talking about the cruelty and the
Hmm.
inhumanity and the undemocratic process that we saw. But let's also quantify it by putting some numbers on it because the financial impact is also very real.
Well, and talking about money too is that's one way that you can quantify it in a way that people actually not only understand, but
Mhm.
can prove.
Right, right,
And
and then you
so,
could do something about it. You can actually
exactly.
take action, and that was one of the things I think all of us, as this was happening, is we all wanted to do something. We all wanted to take action, and we felt that again across the country. So when everybody did a little bit, it
Hmm.
really added up to a lot, and
Right.
so, we could keep doing that here. We cannot let the federal government think they can come, trash a state, and then just walk away free and clear. No, we can actually prove and quantify the damage
Exactly.
in one way, and the least they can do is at least make us whole financially.
Absolutely. And what sort of responses do you have? Like, has Minnesota State had currently right now?
Mm.
Not just to clean up the mess, but to help fight against it, or to help support the families who can't work or can't bring their kids
Mm.
to school. What types of funds are being used for that, or what kinds of programs are being used for that?
Well, our legislature just reconvened this week, and it was one of the first things that a lot of legislators, Democratic legislators specifically, have been talking about putting together funds like we used during COVID when people lost their jobs or had health risks. Things like rent help. How can we make it so people don't get evicted? Are we able to help people pay their bills, their heat? Are we able to help businesses to keep the doors open? We're at a place now, this has been a couple of months. We've got to try to get money moving because people are starting to file for bankruptcy now. It
Right.
might be too late for some businesses already. So trying to get money to keep the doors open and keep
Hmm.
people afloat. So we're seeing at the legislative level, we're seeing it at the local level, local government saying, hey, all right, we're going to help our people out. Let's see, maybe we can look at a way to do an eviction moratorium by supporting landlords so they can wait for rent. And so a lot
Right.
of right now is what direct support can we get to people for the very, very first and most direct impacts of this. But
Hmm.
this won't be the end, right? We have students now who've missed a couple of months of learning. Even if you weren't one of the targeted students, you were afraid for your friends. You probably weren't as focused on learning fractions as you could have been.
No.
If you're worried about a student that was taken from your school last week, we are going to have to deal with the trauma, and trauma is expensive. People
Yes.
it's hard to work when you're dealing with trauma. You're not going to want to go out and celebrate your birthday probably if you're dealing with
And
trauma.
trauma is also invisible, right? It's hard to
Exactly.
track.
It's harder
So
to track, but it's there. You do feel it. But you're right.
exactly.
A little harder to
Yeah.
quantify. But these things are just going to keep on rippling. And again, when they get out to greater Minnesota too, in our agricultural field, when they get on to people who haven't been to the doctor, so now when they go in, they're going to have to go to the emergency room. So when people aren't getting medical care, that raises health insurance costs for all of us. It just keeps rippling out. And
Right.
so, yes, we need to call out the direct impacts and do that triage right now. And that's what we see our cities and our state trying to do. But we can't forget about this. We're going to be talking about this for a couple of years at least to make
Right.
sure we deal with it as the ripples keep moving. And if we can get that kind of restitution, maybe Trump will think twice before he tries doing this to another community.
I hope so. And already you guys, Minnesota as a state has shown the potential consequences of doing it somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
You banding together, protesting, being out in the streets, communities acting together to make sure that everybody's safe.
The watchword was the big new term we all learned in this. And, I've worked in organizing since I was a kid, right?
Hmm.
Whether it was in a union or as a teacher or whatever. The big term was hyper-local. Everybody talked about hyper-local organizing. And so when people think, oh, what would we do in this situation? Well, again, you just had to stay super local, literally the 10 houses on your street. That was the level of organizing people were at. So, you walked around, you door knocked, see how everybody was and see what you needed. You as 10 people on your street figured it out. Or again, you're a swim mom. The swim moms, that was a group that got together in a lot of Minneapolis schools. And they said, well, we've got everybody's phone numbers. We can figure out how to get a tournament going. We can absolutely figure out how to do protection around our schools.
Oh,
And
that's
and so
amazing.
it's that hyper local thing. So if you
Yeah.
want to be ready in your community, you want a level of readiness, down exchange number with 5 neighbors. If you just did 5 neighbors this week, check in with 5 of your neighbors, you are more ready for any crisis. A tornado, a flood, a neighbor that gets cancer and needs rides to chemo, or an attack from your own federal government. That's the kind of thing that works. And so it doesn't seem like much, but boy, we realized that those relationships, we leveraged everyone we had. So get to know 5 new neighbors. Join something in your community. You know what? You like cosplay? You know what? Get yourself a costume and you join. You join a group. Do you want to
Hmm.
go out and you're gonna learn line dancing? Join a line dance club. You never know when that line dance club might protect you from an armed invasion. But it
Oh
really
my
does work.
God.
It doesn't again.
Right.
It doesn't feel like much, but we saw that was what worked. Hyper local organizing. You don't have to do everything. Just do a bit as local as you can get, and you
Hmm.
will be more prepared.
That is not only true, but also amazing that we're seeing it in real time. And it gives me a lot of hope that we can do this in other places. It gives
Exactly.
me.
And so, again, I work with local government. This is also
Mhm.
another reason why local government matters, because they're the ones that are going to keep your libraries open. We needed those libraries to have meetings to talk about what we were going to do. They're the people that make sure that you've had events where you've talked to people. And so when you do a local community event, people will not believe the lies ICE was saying about our immigrant neighbors. It's like, oh, no, no, no. I know my neighbors. I just saw them at National Night Out, a couple
Right.
months ago. That's not true about my neighbor. I'm going to stand up for my neighbor. So when you do these local things that may not have seemed like much in the moment, just know that they're bigger than you think. So if you're going to do that potluck supper act, that can be an act of revolution. If you're going to go and just check and see, go pet your neighbor's dogs, that is a way for you to be ready for whatever comes your way. So connect. If people can do nothing else right now, make some connections in your community and support the connections that you have in your community. Support your local government's attempt to keep people together.
And if you're watching this, it doesn't have to feel like work. Building a
No,
community
it
doesn't have to
doesn't.
feel
And
like
it's
work.
healing. It's really healing. I mean,
It is.
I did that, after this all happened, I went around and door knocked my neighborhood again
Hmm.
and just said, hey, just heads up, because my security had to be increased. It's like, hey, you're going to see police parked outside of my place more. Don't worry. I'm not sick or anything. I didn't do anything. We're all going to be a little bit safer. However, we're all going to have to be more careful about our speed because they also sit as a speed trap. So here's the thing. We're safer,
Oh
but
my gosh.
I'm sorry. telling people, I said, you're welcome for the extra security, but I'm sorry if you get a speeding ticket because they're going to be around here more. And there was a time to catch up. And how are your kids? And what are you doing? And do you feel
Hmm.
safe? And it was healing for me. It was readiness for our community. It also, I wanted to make sure that people, it demonstrated that our connection. That's another thing that is protective. I don't, not only do you want to be connected, you want people to know you're connected. So
Right.
do some big showy thing, have a party. Do something
That's
so people
true.
can see you're connected. That is going to be protective in a lot of ways.
Right. And those big showy things, they may not feel productive at the time. They might just feel like you are, going out celebrating or doing something that you want to do. But to your point, it's productive just because you're building community and you're
Mhm.
displaying that community to other people. It doesn't have to feel like work.
Exactly.
Um, what does the road to recovery look like?
Mm.
Because so ICE is hopefully going to be like they're decreasing their numbers slowly. I hope.
A lot slower than they need to. I mean,
I agree.
like our
Yes.
governor said, hey, if they need me to help them pack, I will. We will.
Right.
If they have trouble finding their way out here, we can help them. I've got
Hmm?
boxes. I'll pack for you.
We'll
Uh,
take care of that problem for them.
And so the first step is vigilance, right? Our first step is let's make sure they really leave. And so people haven't stopped doing observations. They're still out there in our communities. They are still doing raids. They still need people to be out there. I still have a whistle handy, and so that's I think first step one. It's like let's make sure they follow through on their promises. Right. Let's make sure they know
Right.
that we are watching and we are vigilant and we're not standing down. The next step is going to be let's do triage for the people the most directly and first impacted. To make sure that people can keep their homes, they can keep warm, they keep the lights on, they keep their jobs, make their car payment. Let's help those people first. Let's expand out to the businesses to make sure that our economy is doing well, and then let's expand out and watch as those ripples move and be ready to recognize the wide impacts as it keeps moving out further into our communities and beyond. So I think that's kind of the road to recovery. But also, I'd say a big step on that road to recovery are these midterm elections.
Yes.
If we don't, we've got to send
Absolutely.
a message that we do not support this. If you are, if ask every candidate up and down the ballot, everybody from who's running for U.S. Senate in your community to the person running for, township clerk. Ask
Right.
them, how would you react if ICE came to our community? What would you do? And they need to have a good answer. They need to
That's
know that they're going
right.
to push back and they're going to stand up to ICE because that's the only thing that's worked with the Trump administration. You tried to cooperate with them, you give them an inch, they'll take Venezuela, right?
Right.
So this is this kind of bully, not the kind of one that you can't negotiate with them.
Hmm.
But look at Minneapolis. We stood up and had said, nope, here's the line. We are not going to let you take our neighbors without a fight. And that worked. And we did it to the place where we made sure we were public about it. We were clear. I can't say all the words we used that made it crystal clear what we thought.
Right.
But I was a middle school teacher. I can't say that. But we're very clear about it. And that worked. Sure. They actually increased. Now they doubled down first, but
Right.
you can't let
As
that
bullies
scare you
do.
off. They double down. You stay strong and then they'll move. And you need leaders that are willing to stand up and fight back against these kind of tactics.
Down ballot elections are extremely important.
Oh, yeah, and these are the ones, well, they'll call you back. I mean, they really will call you back, and they
Right.
really want you to pay attention. Just call them up, they
Exactly.
will talk to you for an hour.
Right. No, and they will. They'll get. They're
Mhm.
already active in their communities. It's not one of those elections where you have to beg them to come to your communities.
Right.
Local elections, down ballot state elections. They're already active. They already have the questions, or they already
Mhm.
have the answers to the questions that you want to ask them. They already know who your community is in most cases. Like
And when
they're
will they
already
be the
involved.
person that if they get in office, you can call them. You'll know that,
Exactly.
and
And
you've got a
that's what I mean
connection.
is like there are. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're saying exactly right, and I appreciate this. Some of your viewers will probably have figured out my ADHD, which I just lean into. I
You
co-talking
should.
is my favorite thing. If you're not talking at the same time, well, you're not saying anything we're saying, right? So, pardon me, I'll jump on you too. So I like to co-talk. It's efficient. It shows enthusiasm. But yeah, I think that idea of this connection you can have, so you can call up and say, hey, this is what's happening in my community, and you can directly see what's going on. Our local elected officials, the ones that I'm supporting for reelection were the ones that were in the streets in this. They went out, made sure they
Right.
saw firsthand what was going on. They showed up. They monitored ICE themselves. They helped walk kids to school. They all they've been doing nothing but eating in local restaurants, trying to help them with business. We have all gained a couple of pounds of supporting the local. I'm putting my body mass index on the line for my local economy, because I'm just, just eating out. It's like, I'm here for lunch, I'm going to help you out and help you recover. But who's willing to take action? Who's going to push back? Who's going to take action? And who got out there to see for themselves what was going on?
Right.
Though I was very impressed with people who, sometimes at their own personal risk, went out there to make sure they really understood what was happening in their community.
Right. And those are the people that you need to vote. And a lot of the time, it's really easy to find out, just like you said, who they are. And down ballot voting, these are the people who you can win these elections, even if you're in an area, even if you're in a red area and you're like, oh, my area is so red, I'm never going to win any of these elections. If you come out there, you can, because they come down to so few voters.
They talk
If
about
just
those
a few
elections,
of
the
you
old
step
saying
up.
of, you can win on a write-in after dinner.
Yes.
That's the idea of, like, you could run down to your local watering hole and say, hey, let's all go vote for whoever, and you can win an election that way.
You can,
And also
especially like
you can
school board
also,
elections, like
and so can an
local within your
extremist though.
district elections.
But that extremist can win an election that way too. They have
Yes,
to
and they
go, all
often
they have to
do.
do is go to their Christian nationalist church and say, let's go down there. They can win. And then we can have people in who are very dangerous for democracy. Not only can, again, you influence that election, so can an extremist. So we
Right.
need you to be involved.
And the thing is, they're guaranteed to be organized, which means we need to.
And we can do it. We
So,
showed in
and we
Minneapolis,
can.
Minneapolis, St. Paul, Columbia Heights, Elk River. We showed you how to do it. Like
Right.
you said, we were able to do it. You can do it. And it doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be, it can be a little bit awkward. It can be a little clunky.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what's important. Just do something. It's gonna make a difference.
That's right. So this is the question that I always ask toward the end of the interview. And
Okay.
I know it's sometimes hard to answer because of so many things that are happening right now.
Mhm.
But what's giving you hope?
Oh,
Oh, you got
there's
this
a lot
one.
that's giving me hope.
Yes.
I'm here. I'm just here to grab something out of my bag here. But when I think about what gives me hope every day, it's just thinking about what my neighbors did. Like in my purse right now, I keep this for a couple of reasons. One, of the whistles. This was very simple. Everybody with a 3D printer was printing out whistles. This is another
That's
it's a
amazing.
3D printer whistle and giving them
Mm-hmm.
out for free. I took my old campaign buttons and I made them into Constitutional Observer buttons. Everybody did these really humble
Wow.
things that together added up. And
Mm-hmm.
so I just keep this. This was not just someone who had the guts to stand up face to face with an armed intruder effectively, but it was also somebody who said, I've got plastic and I've got a 3D printer, or I've got extra buttons and a whole bunch of Mod Podge.
Mm-hmm.
I've been collecting lanyards from, from Things Forever, and we put those together. Or the people who knitted hats to remind people that we were unified, or who delivered food to people's homes. You know what? It didn't have to be big. It could be as simple as a little piece of plastic that you gave to your neighbors, and that's the kind of thing that can save the world. And so there is a lot of hope in these very simple things. So this I keep
I
with
love
me
that so
as a symbol of
much.
hope.
I love that so much.
And we're talking about people still, people want to help. And you still want to help if you've got a few extra bucks. What you want to do is go to, oh, you know what? I'm going to get you a good website here. Hang on, that we can share. Maybe you can help me find that
I'm
too. I
gonna.
want to find oh shoot. I know what I'm looking for here. Let me just find it here. It's my favorite conglomeration of where you can find good places to hear. And it's the the immigrant network. It's the one that Menorca or something like that. Let's get them up. Let's find them here. I'm looking, I just typed that wrong because I got the Retail Crime Association, and that's not where I want to look. Minnesota. Let's just find that right now.
Oh, you're fine.
Stand with Minnesota. Do I know that person? I think I do. Actually, you know what? This might be a legit. Let me go to the site. If this is the one I think that my friend works with Stay Informed, but you can do Love Notes. Okay, Keep Minnesota House. Stand with Minnesota. I could certainly tell you to go and visit the office of the Minnesota State Auditor for all kinds of fun data and discussions about local fiscal accountability. But what I hope people go, one place to start is standwithminnesota.com. This is a woman that used to live in Minnesota. I know her real well, and she's deeply connected with the different communities helping people out. So you go to that website, there's all of these opportunities to support us, not just in Minnesota, but across the country. So visit Stand with Minnesota and see if you can find a way to plug in and help.
And it looks like I was just browsing around Stand with Minnesota just a few minutes ago, and it looks like there's a lot of ways to help on that website.
Absolutely.
So,
Nobody has to do everything if we all do something. So
right.
do your part.
Whatever you can do.
Thank you for what you've already done. And let's just do a little bit more to get through this and try to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. Um, and I appreciate everything that you're doing in Minnesota.
Oh, and thank you. Thank you. It's great to have this talk about. This is why we don't feel alone here in Minnesota, because of these kind of connections. And if, just know that if it happens to you, we're ready to help.
Thank you.